Good afternoon. I'm KHU11 meteorologist Kim Castro, keeping a close eye on radar again for today. Similar situation to yesterday in terms of not widespread coverage that we're watching, but very specialized spots for the potential of some stronger storms. Now, the difference between yesterday and today already is yesterday we had an area of rotation to the far north. Now we're just looking at an isolated surface boundary that's starting to spew out a little bit of energy. We've got two spots that we're watching for some heavier downpours and even a couple of flashes of lightning that we're picking up on radar right now. So we'll start with the cell that's just south of Sugar Land, pushing towards Sienna right now. You can see when we throw on the surface level wind barbs that we've got this area of convergence. So air is lifting up into the upper levels of the atmosphere because there's a void, and so that's funneling in all of that moisture and all of that warmth that we've been accumulating throughout the day, and so that is leading to that quick downpour right there. So it's moving rather quickly, but as it passes through, we are going to see a couple of areas get some heavier rain. I'm going to move this cell right now so you can see where those quick downpours are right now. So north of Thompson's, right near Booth, there's where you're going to see some quick heavy downpours pushing through your area. In addition to that, like I mentioned, just a couple of thunderstorm strikes, maybe around 4 over the last 10 minutes or so. And if you turn on Hail Tracker, some of these cells are indicating the potential to bring us a little bit of isolated hail. But yes, it is on the smaller end, so pea-sized and potentially melting before reaching the ground. But I just want to show you what the possibility is for some of these cells that are popping up this afternoon. So we don't have any indication of rotation, which is a good differentiator from yesterday for the time being, but we are going to watch some downpours and lightning. I'm going to put this into motion right now. This is a loop over the last hour. So you can see it kind of blew up there for a little bit as it passed just south of Sugar Land, with that heavier little hail core potentially making its way towards the south and east towards Sienna. Now it is starting to dwindle a little bit, which is a good sign, and the Alvin cell right there had lightning for a moment, but for the time being it's showing no lightning strikes. I'm going to actually query this spot right here to see if we've seen anything over the last 10 minutes. But just keep in mind, these definitely have a lot of energy to work with, a lot of moisture and a lot of warmth, and so they will be able to bring you some heavier rain, maybe even a push of wind. So over the last 10 minutes, let me show you. This is kind of an overview of how much rain the area has gotten over the last hour or so, and that's just about 1/10 of an inch. So within the core of the cell, however, you could see about maybe 2 to 3 inches of rainfall per hour. So that's the rate. It just shows us the intensity of the rain. So definitely something that you'll notice if you're in these very isolated areas. Now, this is what I like to call kind of like a bullet point forecast. It's not the big headline. It's more of like a subheader. Some of us will see that quick downpour, but it's a very isolated area to watch. But because we are so juiced up, our atmosphere has so much to work with. If we do see those isolated areas that have a boundary to lift that moisture, we could see some of these take off quickly. Right now, it's just something we're keeping a close eye on, but nothing that is bringing us concern. I'm going to throw on velocity, which not only shows the potential for rotation, but also shows some of the wind speeds. So nothing organized that I'm seeing there on our rotation detector, but just south of Alvin, nothing to bring us concern. Some wind speeds on radar at around 15 miles an hour at best. More so, we're just going to be watching for that quick downpour as those thunderstorms kind of get pushed up into the atmosphere. Something else I'm going to watch, echo tops is something I like to look at just to see how tall these storms are growing. But for the most part, let me get velocity out of here, but for the most part, we're not going to be seeing much of an impact with these. So if I query some of these cells, just around 20 to 30,000 feet. That is a pretty low grade thunderstorm cell right there. And again, dying down. But for a moment, they had a little bit of intensity, which is why we wanted to hop on here and just let you know what we've been watching throughout the afternoon. This is peak daytime heating. So if these were to fire off a little bit, this would be the time that they do that in. But for now, I'm going to see lightning detector right now with that cell that's pushing towards Judith, and just one strike in the last 10 minutes. And it's a negative strike, which means it is the weaker of the two positive strikes, or 10 times stronger. So that's also good news if we ever start to see the positive strike count go up. That's when we start to keep a closer eye. But I'll loop this over the last hour so you could see, maybe if you're in the Sugar Land area, you noticed a little bit of commotion, especially if you're maybe in the Booth area or Thompson's. You saw that cell passing through your area with a little bit of intensity. There was a hail track on there, so radar indicated some very small hail with the cell as well, but it has definitely lost some of its intensity as it continues to trek towards the south and towards the southeast. That being said, even though it's a very isolated area, the cities that it does pass through, it does have the potential to bring us a quick downpour. So another one of those cells, Alvin to Liverpool, you'll see those deeper reds, those deeper oranges too, which indicate some heavier rain right now. So FM 2403, you've got some heavier rain pushing into your area. And Camp Wallace Road, you're just starting to see the very beginning stages of some light rain. Up ahead, some moderate rain and potentially some heavier downpours, but just for a quick while, just bursts of thunderstorm activity. In fact, the one in Alvin's actually starting to grow a little bit in size. So while the cell that passed through south of Sugar Land towards Sienna is pretty much holding steady, the one in Alvin's starting to get a little bit more surface area there. Intensity is pretty much the same here. I'll turn on the lightning detector for that area just to see what it's been doing over the last 10 minutes. But in terms of rainfall, it is starting to pick up a little bit more coverage for the moisture, at least. So let me get in a little bit closer here. And in fact, that little purple spot that you see right there, that's another indicator that we could potentially see a little bit of small hail with some of these thunderstorm cells as well, because that's just an area of concentrated reflectivity from radar, which means that that could be picking up on ice instead of actual water droplets. So another little pop-up spot that we're seeing here at Booney to Liverpool, a little bit of light rain there, but for the most part, these are not showing any severe components, just a little bit of a stronger storm passing through your area with a little bit of downpour and lightning potential. Let me query our whole area to see. Again, these are south of town, and that's where we've got a boundary set up. So nothing that is synoptic, so nothing that is area-wide impact potential, but more so localized. And our models have been showing the south side and southwest portion of the viewing area to have more favorable conditions to see some of these thunder showers pop up throughout the day. So I'll continue to loop them and see kind of the patterns. This is what we're going to be doing all afternoon long, is just kind of tracking their progression. Are they weakening, or are they perhaps intensifying a little bit, and just watching their motion as they push out of the area. But one more time, I'll get in a little bit closer just so you can see which areas are getting the quick downpours right now. So headed towards Liverpool, Camp Wallace Road, you'll start to see some downpours. And then if this cell holds together, it'll potentially push towards Jamaica Beach, maybe towards Bay Harbor as well. Looks like the orientation is a little bit more to the south than towards the southeast. But yeah, this one doesn't seem to be moving too much. The one Alvin to Liverpool, and so that's when we can start to accumulate a little bit of rain. So let me look at the rainfall rate over just the last hour. So the one that was that cell that's south of Sugar Land towards Greatwood and Thompson's, right over Booth, that one's picked up quite a bit of rain just in the last hour, almost an inch right in the center of it. Along Booth, University Boulevard towards Thompson. So right around half an inch to an inch of rain just in the last hour. So a significant downpour with that cell there. And the Alvin cell, maybe a few tenths of an inch. No, it's showing zero, so trace amounts of rain for that one. But of course, over the next hour or two, if it stays stagnant there, we'll definitely start to see a little bit more rain accumulate. But just a reminder that you may be looking out and about, and for most of us it's just a partly cloudy day with a little bit of a haze out there. By the way, there is an air quality alert out for this afternoon. You might not see the impacts widespread, but definitely localized for today because of these surface features that we're going to be watching. Not out of the question to see some of these gain a little bit of intensity. As you can see, we'll be watching for lightning, we'll be watching velocity to see if any other factors play in. So if any wind shifts happen at the surface towards the top and we see any indication of rotation, we'll definitely get back on here to let you know about it. But for the time being, it just looks like some heavier downpours for these isolated cells south of the I-10 corridor, really pushing towards the island at this point, pushing towards the coast, but not moving too quickly, kind of staying pretty stagnant over a couple of cities for the last hour or so, which has given that quick downpour. Keep a close eye on your phones in case we do come back and do another social update for you. We'll be streaming on the web, and of course we'll be live on our newscast 4, 5, and 6 o'clock, give you the latest updates on where the rain is right now and what these cells are doing. But the big difference between yesterday and today so far is that we did have this area of rotation that we were watching yesterday. Now we're just watching kind of a boundary setup just south of town there, and that's allowing for a little bit of lifting and some of these thunderstorms to kind of pop up. But for now, they look to be holding steady, not intensifying, not really weakening either. So just keep an eye out, especially if you're in the area. You might experience a little downpour, maybe a flash of lightning, and if they intensify, we'll be back on here. All right, have a good one.